Welcome back, Year 8. Good to see you all. I've had a little bit of technical difficulty, but hopefully this video is going to come up soon. I'm going to start with a joke. Why was the student upset when the teacher called him average? Bum, ba-da-da. It's because it was a mean thing to say. Get it? Mean? Average? Ah. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. Let me try share my screen. This should work this time. Here we go. And we're up. Beautiful. All right. So today we're going to be talking about using the measures of central tendency. Now you've found out how to find them. It's like the mean, median, mode. You found out how to find them. Now we're actually going to use them. Now what I mean by that is, I guess usually when we look at sets of data, there's going to be either the mean, median, or mode that's going to summarize the data better than the other ones, right? Sometimes mean will be best, sometimes median, sometimes mode. Now, what we have to do is we have to use our brains. You guys have brains to decide which one is actually going to be the best measure or the best summary, right? And we're also going to learn how to draw a dot plot because that's something that you need to know how to do. And it's going to help us to really see the spread of the data and have a better understanding of it. So I'm going to give you a quick example here. Mr. K bought some music equipment. Now, what music equipment, you ask? Maybe I bought myself a guitar. Or maybe I bought myself a bass, right? Or maybe I bought myself another bass, a 5 string. I don't know if anyone plays music, but Mr. K loves his music stuff, right? He plays music. So I bought some music equipment over the last month, and let's say the items I purchased were valued at $2, $5, $10, 20, 20, 50, 100, 1,000. Now, the first type of question that they're going to ask is probably going to be the same as ones you've done before. Find the mean, median, mode, and range. I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just going to blitz through this. If you need to recap, there's a video. Go watch it. So mean would be 150, 2 plus 5 plus 10 plus 20 plus 20 plus 50 plus 100 plus 1,000 divided by how many scores. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scores. I get 150.88. Mode is my most reoccurring score. So that there is going to be simply $20. My median is going to be my middle. So I've got 8 scores. I've got 2 in the middle. It's 20 and 20. So my median would be 20 plus 20 divided by 2, which is 20. And my range is going to be highest score, take away lowest score, 1,000, take away 2. And that's going to give me 998. Hopefully all that stuff is quite familiar. Now we're going to do the stuff that you may not have seen before. And it says here, draw a dot plot and mark where the mean, median, and mode are and comment your findings. All right, so I'm just going to draw a line and I'm looking at my scores are all the way between 0 and 1,000, or technically 2 and 1,000. So I'm going to draw something to scale. So if it's 10,000 or 1,000, sorry, I'm going to use 10 little boxes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at that nice straight line. Gonna add a little bit on either side just to kind of draw an arrow. That's $0. That there is 1,000. Now I'm not going to label all of these. I'm just going to label maybe every 200. So that would be 800. That would be 600, 400, and 200. Now, it's important that for this stuff here that you do it to scale. So for example, 1 centimeter equals something, right? You always draw it to scale. So that way you're going to be able to easily see what's going on. Now, if I look here, I'm going to put a dot wherever my scores line up. So $2 would kind of be around really close to 0, right? I'm going to look at 5, pretty close to 0 as well. I'm going to look at 10, pretty close to 0. I'm going to look at 20, it's pretty close to 0. 50, maybe a little bit further. Maybe I'll draw it a little bit further up. So 50 would be maybe closer to like here. 100 would be around here. And then 1,000, I have 1 score all the way here, right? So I've just placed a dot to represent each of my scores. And if they, I guess they line up on top of each other, you can stack them up. But if not, you can just put them all like this. Now, hopefully you can see here that there is a big spread of data. Now, hopefully you remember this was called a gap, right? That's a big gap. And we could also say that there is an outlier, Okay. So those are some comments that we can make, and we can also see where most of the scores lie. Okay. So the scale is super important for that. Now, it says remove the outlier and recalculate the mean, median, mode, and range. Right, so I've done that. If I've taken out that 1000, because that's my highest score, so I kind of pretend that I cross it out and it doesn't exist anymore. Now I recalculate the mean, so 2 plus 5 plus 10 plus 20 plus 20 plus 50 plus 100, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide it by not 8 scores this time, because I'm really only adding 7 scores. So if I add 7 scores, or divide it by 7, my answer becomes 29.57. Now notice how that's very, very different from my other mean, right? That mean was 150, right? But this mean, just by taking out 1 score, is now 29.57. Okay, now let's see how it changes the other things. Will it affect my mode? My mode is still going to be $20, because that's the most recurring score. Okay, now median, now I'm looking at the score in between 7 scores. So I'm going to take a look, 2 and 100, 5 and 50, 10 and 20, and I've got 1 score in the middle. It's just straight up 20. So median doesn't change too much. Good to know. And my range now becomes 100 take away 2, and now my range is 98. Right, and that's a big difference from before. My range before was 998. That was big boy. Right, from 98 to 998. Big difference. Now, can you see how often an outlier will change your scores dramatically? Okay, there's that one big purchase that changes everything. So these are things to note as we go on, and just always be looking out for outliers, because they will kind of change your data. Now, it says here, a question that they may ask you is discuss the use of range as a measure of spread. Right, now, if I'm talking about including the outlier, it says here that my range was 998, right, from before. Now, 998 is a little bit intense for me, so I'm going to say including the outlier, it's not super reliable, because I wouldn't say that that's how much I generally spend. I wouldn't say that I spend anywhere between $998, right? It's mainly between, it's closer to 98, right? And then it's just that one-off big payment. So if it was including the outlier, it's not reliable. But if it's excluding the outlier, right, then it's a bit more, it's more accurate. Yeah, it's more an accurate measure. I hope that is making some sense. If this isn't making sense, take some time to think about it, see if it makes sense to you, because now is the part where we kind of have to use our brains. Okay, now let's actually discuss, and I want you to think, all right, if I was, what measure would I use if I wanted to tell Mrs. K how much I've spent on music gear? Okay, now I don't want to tell Mrs. K that I've spent $1,000 on some music equipment when we've got bills to pay, right? So what am I going to tell her? What is the best one? So I'm looking here. It's like maybe I could tell her on average, did I spend 150 or 200 or $29.57? Well, I'm going to tell her the smaller one. I'm going to leave the outlier out, right? Or even better, even lower than $29.57, I'm going to say, I spent on average maybe $20, right? Because that is my mode and my median. I'm technically not lying. So for this one here, I reckon mode would be the best. And that's going to keep me out of trouble. Right now, what measure would I use if I was actually trying to budget, right? I wanted to buy stuff. I wanted to keep growing my collection, and I want to know how much I'm spending. Now, if I want to try budget myself, I probably want to be pretty real with myself. So I'm going to look at this thing, and maybe what I'll do is I'll take the real average, right? So the real average is maybe 150.88, and I'll be like, maybe roughly I spend that much a month. Even if I don't spend it, then I'll have extra to buy later, right? So I'm probably going to use the mean, and I'm going to use the one that's including the outlier. So it accounts for when I do want to buy maybe another base or something. Now, hopefully that is making sense, and hopefully you can kind of see how now we're starting to actually think about what we're doing and how, let me write something down here. It's an important note, right? The outlier often greatly affects now if I look here, which one did the outlier affect the most? It affected the mean and affected the range. Now, if you look at the mode and the median, that didn't change too much. It stayed at 20. But with things like this, an outlier will often greatly affect the mean and the range, right? So the mean and the range is affected, whereas the mode and the median is less affected. Okay. I think it's supposed to be affected. Sorry, math teacher here. So less affected. Okay. So that there is probably a helpful note that will help in the questions when you think about, okay, if I don't want to change the data too much, maybe I'll use the median, right? If there's an outlier and I don't want it to be affected, I don't want to affect the measure too much, I'm going to use median or mode, right? But if I want everything to kind of give me an overall picture, then maybe mean will be best, if there's not too many outliers. Okay, so hopefully that's going to help you with the exercises you have today. Hopefully you kind of understood it, and maybe next time I'll play some music for you guys. Maybe comment if you want it. All right, cool. I will see you guys later. Have fun and bye.